The alarm screamed through the corridors of Virgil 7, and Tae-min knew that sound meant death was coming. He dropped his welding torch and ran toward the source of the noise, his boots clanging against the metal floor of the mining station. Around him, other workers fled in the opposite direction, their faces twisted with fear. Tae-min had worked on Virgil 7 for 3 years. It was a miserable place. A giant rock floating in space where aliens from dozens of worlds came to dig up rare minerals. Humans like him were at the bottom of the food chain here. They got the worst jobs, the smallest pay, and the least respect. Most aliens saw humans as weak creatures, who died too quickly to be worth much attention. He rounded a corner and nearly crashed into a group of tall, elegant aliens in shimmering armor. They were Valarii, members of one of the most powerful empires in the galaxy. Their skin had a faint blue glow, and they moved with a grace that made humans look clumsy by comparison. "Move aside, human," one of them barked. The translator in Taemin's ear made the words sharp and cold. Tae-min pressed himself against the wall as they rushed past. That's when he heard it. A voice coming through the damaged communication system. It was speaking Valarii. But his translator caught the words, "Princess Hana is trapped in Section 7. We cannot reach her. The passage has collapsed." Taemin's engineering mind started working immediately. Section 7 was the old processing facility. If the princess was trapped there, she was in serious trouble. The explosion must have damaged the atmospheric controls. Valarii couldn't breathe the same air as humans. Without their special atmosphere, she would die. He should run. This wasn't his problem. He was just a contract worker. And getting involved in alien politics was a good way to end up dead. But Tae-min had never been good at walking away when someone needed help. He sprinted toward Section 7, taking the maintenance tunnels that most people didn't know existed. His small human frame let him slip through spaces where the larger Valarii couldn't go. When he reached the collapsed area, he could see why the rescue team had stopped. The main corridor had caved in completely. Huge chunks of metal and rock blocked the way. But Tae-min could see something the Valarii had missed. There was a ventilation shaft, barely wide enough for a human to crawl through. It was damaged and unstable, but it led directly to where the princess was trapped. He grabbed his emergency kit from his belt and crawled into the shaft. The metal groaned under his weight. Pieces of debris cut his arms and legs as he squeezed through the narrow space. His heart pounded in his chest, but he kept moving forward. After what felt like forever, he dropped down into a small chamber. The air was thick with smoke and dust. Emergency lights flickered, casting strange shadows on the walls. In the corner, he saw her. Princess Hana was younger than he expected, maybe in her early 20s by human standards. She was hunched against the wall, her breathing shallow and rapid. Her skin, normally a healthy blue, had turned gray. She was dying. "Help," she whispered when she saw him. "Please." Tae-min looked around quickly. The atmospheric generator was destroyed. The room was filling with gases that were poison to the Valarii. He had maybe minutes to do something. He opened his emergency kit and pulled out everything he had. A portable oxygen unit, some sealing tape, a small force field generator he had been tinkering with. It wasn't much, but it would have to work. "I'm going to help you," he said, kneeling beside her. "But you need to stay calm." His hands moved quickly, connecting wires and tubes. He took the force field generator and modified it, creating a small bubble around the princess. Then he connected his oxygen unit to it, filling the bubble with breathable air mixed with the Valarii atmospheric compounds from the damaged generator. It was crude and wouldn't last long, but it was working. The princess's color started to improve. She took a deep breath and looked at him with wide eyes. "You're human," she said, surprised. "Yeah," Tae-min replied, checking the connections. "Not what you expected for a rescue." "I guess. I've never met a human before," she admitted. "They told me your kind was primitive." Tae-min laughed bitterly. "We are, compared to you. But sometimes primitive is good enough." He contacted the rescue team through his communicator and gave them instructions on how to reach them safely. Then he settled in to wait. The oxygen supply was limited, and he was sharing it with the princess. He could already feel the effects of the toxic air seeping into his lungs. Hours passed. The princess told him her name was Hana, and she was on a diplomatic tour of the outer colonies. She was curious about him, asking questions about Earth and human culture. Taemin answered as best he could, though his head was getting foggy. "Why did you come for me?" she asked. "You could have escaped. Someone needed help," Taemin said simply. "That's reason enough." The princess stared at him for a long moment. "By the old laws of my people, I owe you a life debt. You saved my life at risk to your own." "Don't worry about it," Taemin said, his voice getting weaker. "Just doing what anyone would do." "No," Hana said firmly. "Not anyone. Most wouldn't. I will remember this." When the rescue team finally cut through, Taemin was barely conscious. He had given the princess most of the oxygen, breathing the toxic air himself. His lungs burned, and he could taste blood in his mouth. The radiation from the damaged reactor was cooking him from the inside. As they lifted him onto a stretcher, he heard the princess's voice, strong and clear. "This human saved my life. I swear by the ancient laws that his debt will be repaid. I will not let him die." Taemin wanted to tell her that it was okay, that humans died all the time and nobody cared. But darkness swallowed him before he could speak. His last thought was that at least he had fixed one more thing before the end. The stars outside the station burned bright and cold, uncaring witnesses to the small human who had done something impossible. He had saved a princess from an empire of gods, and in doing so, he had changed everything. Taemin woke up to the sound of machines beeping around him. His body felt heavy, like someone had filled his veins with sand. Every breath hurt. He tried to open his eyes, but the light was too bright. Voices spoke in languages his translator struggled to identify. "He's awake," someone said in accented but clear human speech. Taemin forced his eyes open. He was in a medical bay, but not like any he had seen before. The walls were made of something that looked like crystal, glowing softly with inner light. Strange devices floated in the air around his bed, scanning him with beams of colored light. A woman stood beside his bed. She was human, maybe in her 40s, with short black hair and tired eyes. She wore a white coat, marked with symbols he didn't recognize. "Welcome back," she said. "I'm Dr. Yoon-ji. You're on Thessara Prime, the Valari homeworld." Taemin's brain took a moment to process that. "What? How did I get here?" the princess insisted. Dr. Yoon-ji explained. "After you collapsed, she had you brought to her people's most advanced medical facility. You've been unconscious for 5 days." Taemin tried to sit up, but pain shot through his chest. Dr. Yoon-ji gently pushed him back down. "Don't move too much. Your body took severe damage. The radiation exposure has affected you at the cellular level. Your lungs are barely functioning, and your immune system is failing. So I'm dying," Taemin said flatly. Dr. Yoon-ji hesitated. "Yes. Human medicine can't fix this kind of damage. We can make you comfortable, but I'm going to die anyway," Taemin finished. He had known that since the moment he shared his oxygen with the princess. It had been worth it. The door to the medical room opened, and a group of Valari entered. In the center was a woman who made everyone else seem small, even though she wasn't particularly tall. She wore robes that shimmered like starlight, and her eyes were the deep blue of Earth's oceans. Power radiated from her like heat from a fire. "That is Queen Yuna," Dr. Yoon-ji whispered. "The Empress of the Valari Empire." Taemin's heart rate spiked. What was an empress doing in his room? Behind the queen came Princess Hana. She looked fully recovered, her skin glowing with health. When she saw Taemin was awake, she smiled. "You live," Hana said. Queen Yuna studied Taemin with an expression he couldn't read. "So this is the human who saved my daughter's life. I just did what anyone would do, Your Majesty," Taemin said, his voice rough. "Do not diminish your actions," the queen said sharply. "My daughter tells me you sacrificed your own survival to keep her alive. You knew you would die, yet you did it anyway." Taemin didn't know what to say to that. The queen turned to a tall Valari male who stood nearby. "Hi, Physician Torvin. What is your assessment?" The physician looked at Taemin with barely disguised contempt. "The human is dying. The damage is too extensive. Even our technology cannot repair it. Humans are too primitive, too fragile. We can ease his pain, but we cannot save him." "No," Princess Hana said firmly. Everyone turned to look at her. "No. He will not die." "My daughter," the queen said gently. "Sometimes we cannot change fate. Then we will defy fate," Hana declared. She stepped forward and placed her hand over her heart in a formal gesture. "Mother, I invoke the ancient law of blood debt. This human saved my life when no one else could. He gave his own life force to preserve mine. By our oldest laws, I owe him a debt that can only be repaid by preserving his life." The room went silent. High Physician Torven's eyes widened. Even Queen Yuna looked surprised. "Hana," the queen said carefully. "The law of blood debt has not been invoked in 300 years. Do you understand what you're asking?" "I understand perfectly," Hana said. "The debt must be repaid. Our honor demands it." Queen Yuna looked at her daughter for a long moment. Then she turned to Taemin. "Human, do you understand what is happening?" "Not really," Taemin admitted. "I don't know much about Valari customs. My daughter has bound our family's honor to your survival," the queen explained. "If we allow you to die when we have the power to help, we would be breaking our most sacred law. It would bring shame to our house." "I don't want to cause problems," Taemin said. "You don't have to. This is not your choice," the queen interrupted. She straightened her shoulders and her voice became commanding. "As Queen of the Valari Empire, I decree that all resources necessary will be devoted to saving this human's life. Every scientist, every physician, every piece of technology we possess will be used. Failure is not acceptable." High Physician Torven sputtered. "Your Majesty, with respect, the cost would be enormous. For one human? It's not practical." Queen Yuna's eyes turned cold. "Are you questioning my decree, Torven?" The physician immediately bowed his head. "No, Your Majesty. I will begin assembling the team immediately." As the Valari filed out to begin their work, Dr. Yunji looked stunned. "Do you know what just happened? The most powerful empire in the galaxy just committed all its resources to saving one human life. This is unprecedented." Taemin felt overwhelmed. "I don't understand why. I'm nobody important." Princess Hana, who had stayed behind, knelt beside his bed. "You are wrong. You are someone who saw a person in danger and risked everything to help, even though that person was a stranger from a species you had never met. That makes you very important indeed." "Your people think humans are primitive," Taemin said. "Perhaps we've been wrong about many things," Hana replied. She stood and prepared to leave. "Rest now. My mother's word is absolute. You will be saved." After she left, Dr. Yunji sat down heavily in a chair. "I've been working with the Valari for 10 years. I've never seen the Queen make such a commitment. This is going to change everything." "What do you mean?" Taemin asked. "The whole galaxy is going to hear about this," Dr. Yunji said. "The Valari Empire spending unlimited resources to save a human worker? It's going to make people ask questions about how they see humanity. About how everyone sees humanity." End quote. End quote. The Royal Medical Facility was a building that seemed to touch the clouds. Taemin had been moved to a room at its highest point, where dozens of Valari scientists and physicians worked around him day and night. They scanned him, tested him, and tried treatment after treatment. Nothing worked. Dr. Yunji sat beside his bed, reviewing data on a holographic display. Her face was tight with frustration. "Every time we try to use Valari regenerative technology on you, your body rejects it," she explained. "Your cells don't respond the same way theirs do. It's like trying to fix a machine with the wrong tools." Taemin could feel himself getting weaker every day. His skin had taken on a gray tone, and he could barely eat. "So that's it, then. We tried. No, Dr. Yunji said firmly. I have an idea, but it's going to sound crazy. Before she could explain, the door burst open. A young man rushed in, his face flushed with emotion. He looked like Tae-min, but younger and healthier. Jae-sung, Tae-min said weakly. His brother ran to the bedside and grabbed his hand. You idiot! What were you thinking? Good to see you too. Tae-min managed to smile. Jae-sung worked on a freight ship that traveled between human colonies. It must have taken him weeks to get permission to come to Thesara Prime. Humans weren't usually allowed on the Valari homeworld. Princess Hana arranged for my travel, Jae-sung said, as if reading his brother's mind. She sent a ship for me. Over the next few days, Jae-sung stayed by Tae-min's side. He also spent time with Princess Hana, who visited often. Tae-min watched them talk, saw the way his brother's fear slowly turned into something like friendship with the alien princess. Meanwhile, Dr. Yunji had assembled a team. She explained her theory to High Physician Torvin, who listened with obvious skepticism. You want to stop trying to make him Valari, Torvin said, and instead work with his human biology? Exactly, Doctor, Yunji said. I've been studying human cellular structure. We're different from Valari in fundamental ways. But we're not weaker. We're adapted for survival in harsh conditions. Earth is a brutal planet compared to Thesara Prime. Humans evolved to endure. She pulled up images showing human and Valari cells side by side. Look at this. Valari cells regenerate quickly because your planet is stable and safe. But human cells? They're designed to survive damage, to adapt, to keep fighting even when things go wrong. Torven studied the data. Despite his prejudice, he was a scientist first. Fascinating. You're saying humans have a survival trait that we lack? I'm saying we need to stop fighting what Tae-min is and start using it, Dr. Yunji said. If we can stimulate his own cells to repair themselves while supporting them with our technology, we might have a chance. They worked for 3 weeks straight. The medical team was joined by specialists from across the empire. Queen Yuna visited daily, demanding progress reports. The pressure was intense. Tae-min drifted in and out of consciousness. Sometimes he'd wake to find Jae-sung reading to him. Sometimes it was Princess Hana, telling him stories about Valarii history. Once, he woke to find Queen Yuna herself sitting beside his bed in silence, her expression unreadable. But not everyone supported the effort. Council member Draxus, a powerful Valarii politician, had been speaking against Queen Yuna's decree. He believed spending so many resources on a human was foolish and showed weakness. One night, Tae-min woke to find strange figures in his room. They weren't medical staff. They moved quietly, purposefully. One of them reached for the machines keeping him alive. The door exploded inward. Queen Yuna stood there, surrounded by guards. Her eyes blazed with fury. You dare, she said, her voice deadly quiet. The intruders were dragged away. Later, Tae-min learned that they worked for Draxus, sent to quietly end his life so the Empire could move on. The Queen had executed them herself. She then appeared before the High Council and made a declaration that shocked everyone. The life debt is sacred, she told the assembled leaders. Anyone who threatens this human threatens the throne. Anyone who questions this decree questions me. Let it be known. Tae-min is under my personal protection. His life is as valuable as any Valari's. Word spread across the galaxy. The mighty Valarii Empire was spending unlimited resources and political capital to save one human. Other species watched with amazement and confusion. What made this human so special? Finally, Dr. Yunji and High Physician Torvin completed their treatment. It was a hybrid approach, using Valarii technology to support human biology rather than replace it. They would take Tae-min's own cells, stimulate them to repair the damage, and guide the process with precise applications of regenerative energy. But there was a problem. Tae-min was too weak. His body was shutting down faster than they expected. They had to start the treatment immediately, even though it wasn't fully tested. It could kill him, Torven warned. He's dying anyway, Dr. Yunji said. This is our only chance. They prepared Tae-min for the procedure. Jae-sung held his brother's hand, tears streaming down his face. Princess Hana stood nearby, her posture rigid with tension. "You have to fight," Jae-sung said. "You hear me? You're the toughest person I know. You can do this." Tae-min wanted to answer, but he was too weak. They put him under, and the treatment began. For 3 days, Tae-min's body was a battlefield. The Valarii technology pumped regenerative energy into his cells, trying to jumpstart the healing process, but his cells were resisting, dying faster than they could repair. Dr. Yoonji watched the monitors in despair. "It's not working. His body is giving up." Torven reviewed the data. "His cellular activity is declining. It's as if he's lost the will to survive." Princess Hana overheard this. "The will to survive? Is that important?" "For humans, yes," Dr. Yoonji said. "We don't just survive on biology alone. We need reasons to keep going, purposes that give us strength." Hana looked at Taemin's still form. Then she pulled up a chair and sat beside his bed. She began to speak, even though he couldn't hear her. "Taemin, I don't know if you can hear me, but I want you to know something. What you did changed my life. You showed me that courage isn't about being strong or advanced. It's about choosing to help even when it costs you everything." She continued talking, telling him about the impact his actions had on her mother, on the way the Valarii now saw humans. She told him that his brother needed him, that Dr. Yoonji needed him to prove that her treatment could work. "You're a fighter," she said. "Everyone says so. Don't stop fighting now." On the monitors, something changed. Taemin's cellular activity began to increase. Slowly at first, then faster. His cells started responding to the treatment, regenerating and repairing damage. Dr. Yoonji stared at the data in disbelief. "It's working. His body is healing." The treatment stabilized. Taemin's vital signs improved. After 3 more days, his eyes opened. Princess Hana was still sitting beside his bed. When he looked at her, Himana Taemin floated in darkness, somewhere between sleeping and waking. In this strange place, memories came to him like waves on a shore. He was 10 years old, living on a small colony called New Seoul. His parents had died when he was young, leaving him to care for Jae-sung, who was only 5. They lived in a tiny apartment that always smelled like recycled air and other people's cooking. The colony was poor, always breaking down. Taemin taught himself to fix things by watching the maintenance workers and reading old technical manuals he found in the colony library. He fixed their food processor when it died. He repaired the water filtration unit in their building. People started asking him for help. "You're good at this," Old Man Park told him once. "You see how things work, how they fit together." Taemin remembered feeling proud. He might not have much, but he had his hands and his brain, and he could fix things. Then there was Hee-jin. She lived 2 floors down, a girl with bright eyes who loved to watch him work. She'd sit beside him while he took apart broken machines, asking questions about how everything worked. "Why do you spend so much time fixing things?" she asked once. "Because when things are broken, people suffer," Taemin had answered. "If I can fix something, even something small, I can make things a little better." Hee-jin smiled at him. "That's a good way to be." They grew up together. When Taemin turned 17, he got a job on the colony's life support systems. It was dangerous work, crawling through tight spaces filled with radiation and toxic chemicals. But it paid enough to send Jae-sung to a better school. Hee-jin got a job too, working in the colony's agricultural section. They made plans to save money, to maybe get passage to a better colony someday. Then the accident happened. A containment failure in the agricultural section. Toxic gases flooding the chambers. Taemin ran there as fast as he could, but he was too late. They pulled Hee-jin out, but she was already dying. He held her hand while the medics tried to save her. She looked at him with those bright eyes, now filled with pain. "Promise me something," she whispered. "Anything," Taemin said, tears streaming down his face. Promise me you'll never stop fixing things. The world needs people like you. She died an hour later. Taemin's memories shifted. He was floating in that darkness again. But he could hear voices around him. Dr. Eunji, talking about cellular degradation. Jae-sung, begging him to wake up. Princess Hana telling him stories. Why was he here? Why was he fighting so hard to survive? It would be easier to just let go, to sink into the darkness and rest. He was tired. So very tired. Then Heejin's voice echoed in his memory. Never stop fixing things. But what was he supposed to fix? He was dying. His body was broken beyond repair. He was useless. No, that wasn't right. Taemin's consciousness stirred. He wasn't useless. Dr. Eunji needed him to survive so her treatment would work. So other humans could be saved in the future. Jae-sung needed him because he was all the family his brother had left. Princess Hana needed him to live so she could repay her debt. And maybe, just maybe, the galaxy needed him to prove that humans were worth something. That thought gave him strength. His consciousness rose toward the surface, toward the light, and the pain, and the struggle. It would hurt to wake up, to keep fighting, but he'd never walked away from fixing something that was broken, even if that something was himself. In the real world, Princess Hana sat by his bedside. She'd been there for hours, talking to him, even though he couldn't respond. The treatment is failing again, she said quietly. Dr. Eunji doesn't understand why. Your body was healing, but now it's giving up. She reached out and took his hand. I wish I understood humans better. You're so different from us. We Valari live long lives in comfort and safety. We don't know what it means to struggle the way your kind does. The door opened. A human man in an expensive suit walked in, followed by Valari officials. Princess Hana stood quickly. Who are you? She demanded. Ambassador Ki-won, the man said. I represent the Human Colonial Administration. I'm here to take Taemin home. He's too weak to be moved, Hana said, which is why it's cruel to keep him here. Ki-won said smoothly. Let him die among his own people. Not in some alien hospital. Hana's eyes flashed. He's here because I swore a life debt. He stays until he's healed. Your Highness, with all respect, this situation has become politically complicated, Ki-won said. The Valari Empire spending vast resources on one human is causing tension. Some human leaders feel it makes us look weak, like we can't take care of our own. Others worry about what the Empire expects in return. We expect nothing, Hana said coldly. Nevertheless, I have authority to retrieve this citizen and return him to human care. Queen Yuna entered the room at that moment. Her presence made everyone stand straighter. You have no authority here, Ambassador, she said. Taemin is under my personal protection. He will not be moved. Ki-won bowed respectfully. Your Majesty, I don't wish to cause an incident, but surely you can see that this situation benefits no one. The human is dying despite your best efforts. Let him go home with dignity. No, a weak voice said. Everyone turned. Taemin's eyes were open. He looked terrible, pale and thin, but he was conscious. I'm not giving up, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. And I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. Jae-sung, who had been standing in the corner, rushed to his brother's side. Taemin, you're awake. Taemin managed to smile. Takes more than a little radiation to kill a human, right? Dr. Eunji ran into the room, alerted by the monitors. She started checking his vital signs. Your cellular activity is increasing again. Whatever happened, your body is responding to the treatment. Taemin looked at Princess Hana. You were talking to me. I heard you. You did? Hana asked, surprised. Some of it. You said I was a fighter. Taemin took a painful breath. I remembered why I fight. Why I fix things. Someone once told me the world needs people who fix what's broken. I guess I'm still needed. Ambassador Ki-won looked uncomfortable. Be that as it may. Leave, Queen Yuna said, her voice sharp. Taemin has made his choice. This discussion is over. The ambassador left, clearly unhappy. Jae-sung gripped his brother's hand tightly. "You scared me," he said. "I scared myself," Taemin admitted. He looked at Dr. Yoon-ji. "The treatment is working now?" "Yes," she said, studying the data with excitement. "Whatever changed in you, your cells are accepting the regenerative energy now. Your body is healing." End quote. Taemin closed his eyes, exhausted. But before he slipped back into sleep, he said one more thing. "Haejin, I'm still fixing things, just like I promised." No one knew who Haejin was, but they saw the peaceful expression on Taemin's face. Princess Hana sat back down beside him, keeping her vigil. Over the next week, Taemin's condition improved dramatically. The hybrid treatment was working because he was fighting alongside it. His human stubbornness, his refusal to quit, gave his cells the push they needed to survive. Dr. Yoon-ji documented everything. This wasn't just about saving one man anymore. It was about understanding what made humans special. They weren't physically superior or technologically advanced, but they had something the Valari had never needed to develop: an iron will to survive against impossible odds. High Physician Torven, who had started this process with contempt for humans, now looked at the data with respect. "Remarkable," he said. "Absolutely remarkable. The human spirit is a re." 3 months later, Taemin stood on a balcony overlooking the crystal city of Thesara Prime. He still couldn't quite believe he was alive. The treatment had worked, but it had changed him in unexpected ways. The Valari technology had merged with his human biology, giving him abilities no human had ever possessed. His body healed faster now. The radiation that should have killed him had somehow made his cells more resistant to damage. Dr. Yoon-ji said he could probably survive in environments that would kill a normal human. He was stronger, healthier than he'd ever been, but more importantly, he'd become a symbol. The door behind him opened, and Princess Hana walked out. She'd changed too over these months. She smiled more easily now, and had become one of the loudest voices in the Valari government, arguing for closer ties with humanity. "Are you ready?" she asked. "Not really," Taemin admitted. "I'm not good at speeches. You don't have to give a speech, just be yourself. That's all anyone wants to see." They walked together through the palace halls. Everywhere Taemin went, Valari stopped and stared. Some with curiosity, some with respect, a few with lingering hostility. He was the human who had changed everything. They arrived at the council chamber, a massive room with walls that seemed to be made of captured starlight. Seated in rows were the leaders of the Valari Empire, along with representatives from dozens of other alien species. And, for the first time in history, a delegation of human leaders. Director Subin led the human delegation. She was a tough woman who'd fought for decades to get humanity a seat at the galactic table. When she saw Taemin, she gave him a small nod of approval. Queen Yuna sat on her throne, regal and powerful. When everyone had assembled, she stood. 3 months ago, a human named Taemin saved my daughter's life, she began. In doing so, he forced us to confront our prejudices about his species. We believed humans were weak, primitive, unworthy of our attention. We were wrong. She gestured to screens that lit up around the chamber, showing the medical data from Taemin's treatment. Dr. Yoon-ji and High Physician Torven's research has revealed that humans possess remarkable survival capabilities. Their bodies are adapted to endure harsh conditions. Their minds refuse to give up even when death seems certain. These are not weaknesses. They are extraordinary strengths. Council member Draxus, who had survived the political fallout from his assassination attempt by claiming ignorance, spoke up. "One human with unique circumstances doesn't represent an entire species," he argued. Queen Yuna smiled coldly. "Which is why I'm proposing we find out what humanity is truly capable of." Princess Hana stepped forward. "I present to the Council a proposal for a joint human Valari research and development initiative. Humans will bring their adaptability, their innovative thinking, and their unique perspective. We will provide technology, resources, and our scientific knowledge. Together, we will explore what both species can accomplish." The chamber erupted in debate. Some council members were enthusiastic, Others were skeptical or outright hostile. Taemin watched it all, feeling out of place. Then Director Subin stood. The Human Colonial Administration supports this proposal. For too long, we've been treated as the galaxy's cheap labor. This partnership would give us the chance to prove our worth. The debate continued for hours. Finally, Queen Yuna called for a vote. The proposal passed, though not by a large margin. But it passed. After the session, Taemin found himself surrounded by people. Scientists wanted to study him further. Politicians wanted to use him as a symbol. Everyone wanted something from him. He escaped to a quiet garden behind the palace, needing space to breathe. That's where Jae-sung found him. Quite a day, his brother said, sitting beside him. Yeah, Taemin agreed. I just wanted to fix things. I didn't want to change the galaxy. But you did, Jae-sung said. They're offering you a position as chief human liaison. You'd be the bridge between our species and theirs. Taemin shook his head. I'm an engineer, not a diplomat. You're whatever you choose to be, Jae-sung said. But think about it. You could help shape how humans and Valari work together. You could fix things on a scale you never imagined. That night, Taemin couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about Hai-jin, about her last words to him. Never stop fixing things. What was broken now? The relationship between humans and the rest of the galaxy. The prejudices that kept his species from reaching their potential. Those were big things to fix. Much bigger than a broken machine, but maybe that's what he was supposed to do. The next morning, he accepted the position. The following year was a whirlwind. The Human Valari Initiative launched with Taemin as one of its leaders. Young humans and Valari worked side by side, learning from each other. The first joint research stations were established. Dr. Yoonji and High Physician Torvin published their findings about human biology. The research revolutionized multi-species medicine. The concept of human resilience factor became a major field of study. Other species began to see humans differently. There were setbacks, of course. Some Valari still saw humans as inferior. Some humans resented the Valari's attitude. Old prejudices died hard. But slowly, things changed. A young human woman named Na-ri joined the engineering program. She'd grown up hearing stories about Taemin, about the human who saved a princess and changed the galaxy. She wanted to be like him. Taemin met her at the training facility. She was nervous, surrounded by Valari students who towered over her. I don't know if I belong here, she admitted. Neither did I, Taemin said. But here's what I learned. It's not about being the strongest or the smartest. It's about not giving up. Humans are good at that. He showed her around the facility, introduced her to the other students. Watching her gain confidence, he realized this was why he'd accepted the position. He was building bridges, one person at a time. 6 months later, Queen Yuna made another historic announcement. Humanity would be recognized as a protected allied species of the Valari Empire. This gave humans access to trade routes, technology exchanges, and legal protection throughout Valari space. The ceremony was broadcast across the galaxy. Taemin stood beside Queen Yuna and Director Subin as they signed the agreement. It was a moment that would be remembered for generations. Afterward, Princess Hana pulled Taemin aside. My life debt is repaid, she said formally. You have lived. And more than that, you have thrived. I am released from my obligation. Is that how you see it? Taemin asked. As an obligation? Hana smiled. No. You became my friend. Somewhere along the way. That's something I chose. Not something I owed. Good, Taemin said. Because I'm going to need friends for what comes next. What comes next? Building something better. A galaxy where species work together instead of looking down on each other. Where a human can be more than cheap labor, and a Valarii can learn from a human without losing face. Hana nodded. That's a worthy goal, and I'll help you achieve it. A year after the rescue on Virgil 7, Taemin returned to teaching at the joint training facility. He stood before a class of young engineers, both human and Valari, all eager to learn. Today, we're going to talk about problem solving, he said. Not the kind you find in textbooks, but the real kind. The kind where everything's going wrong, and you have to find a solution with limited resources and limited time. The students leaned forward, interested. The most important thing to remember is this. There's always a way to fix something if you refuse to give up. Your species doesn't matter. Your technology doesn't matter. What matters is your determination to find a solution. As he taught, Princess Hana watched from the back of the room. She smiled, remembering the desperate human who'd crawled through a ventilation shaft to save her life. That evening, Taemin looked up at the stars through the facility's observation dome. Jae-sung had sent him a message earlier. He'd been promoted to captain of his own ship, something that would have been impossible for a human a year ago. Things were changing, slowly, sometimes painfully, but changing. Taemin thought about the boy he'd been on New Seoul, fixing broken machines in a struggling colony. He thought about Haejin and her belief that the world needed people who fix things. She'd been right. The world did need fixers. And sometimes, fixing one small thing, saving one life, could change everything. He'd saved a princess. In return, a queen had refused to let him die. But the real miracle wasn't the advanced technology or the political agreements. It was simpler than that. It was the moment when two different species looked at each other and saw not primitives or aliens, but equals. Partners. Friends. That was worth saving. That was worth fighting for. And Taemin would spend the rest of his life making sure it lasted. Durable force. Taemin was going to survive. And in surviving, he was teaching the galaxy that humanity was far more than anyone had believed. And for the first time since this whole ordeal began, everyone believed it was true. Taemin closed his eyes. He was too tired to think about galactic politics. He just wanted to sleep. But as he drifted off, he heard Dr. Eunji making calls, assembling teams, beginning the impossible work of saving his life. Outside his window, the alien city of Thesara Prime glowed like a jewel under twin suns. Somewhere in that city, the most brilliant minds in the Empire were being gathered for one purpose: to prove that one human life was worth saving. Taemin didn't know if they would succeed. But for the first time since he crawled into that ventilation shaft, he felt something strange and unfamiliar stirring in his chest. It took him a moment to recognize what it was: hope.